your foods.
Great advice. But if you can answer my next question, you deserve the Nobel Peace Prize. I want to know, why do we basically have food binges at night more so than during the day? That is something that you got to tell me why.
Yeah, it's 75% of the time, from the polls I've done, the hardest time is at night for people,
Really?
and yeah, absolutely. And the reason for that is because we've added stress throughout the day. Like, we have the highest amount of willpower first thing in the morning, and then it tapers off throughout the day. So we have less willpower at night, if any at all. Plus, we've accumulated stress throughout the day that we probably didn't address properly. We just, kept moving. And
Hmm.
then when you get home and it's quiet and the kids are in bed, it starts like bubbling up. And you're like, oh, yeah, I forgot that happened. And I forgot he said that. And I forgot I've got to do that still before I go to bed. So all this stress piles up. And also, we feel like we need a reward, right? So we go into the kitchen, we have our little reward, which turns into a binge,
Yes.
and it's just harder at night. Plus, it's quiet, and we're alone with our thoughts and our
Hmm.
feelings. And that's what we've been running from all day in our busyness and overdoing. But when it's quiet and everybody's in bed, we start to have uncomfortable feelings, and we go and we have a snack, which turns into another, one bowl of cereal, which turns into two bowls of cereal, and so forth.
Mm. And it just continues over
Yeah,
and
it's
over.
tough. And it's
It
also,
is.
then it leads to staying up too late because, of course, you
Yes.
want to eat in front of the TV, and then you're
Right.
binge watching shows, and before you
Yes.
know it, you're going to bed at midnight instead of 10, and then you're
Ex-
tired the next day, and then you start it all over again.
Right. Because the food hasn't digested properly.
Yeah.
Right? So you have more, gas and everything else, that
Yeah.
bloating in the stomach.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, downward spiral. Now, in your book, Heal Your Hunger, you outline 7 simple steps to end emotional eating. Now, you may have given me a couple already, but can you just give me those 7 steps again for my listeners and viewers?
Sure. So I'll give them to you. So they're in different orders. Like in my book, one of them is connection and community. They all start with C. So connection and community is one of
Okay.
them. Um, Centeredness, and I did talk about that, like having that morning routine. That's to
That's
get
nice.
centered.
Yes.
A meditation practice, a breathing practice. That's to get centered.
Yes.
Definitely communication. We didn't even talk about that, but people typically who have food and weight issues have trouble speaking, like saying how they really feel about things. So they pack it down. They stuff it instead of saying it. And so
Yes.
communication is one, like learning to express yourself, instead of stuffing what you want to say. That's really important. Clean eating, like finding a way, and my clean eating plan is 3 meal magic, which I said 3 meals with nothing in between. And
Right.
people need to find what works for them. I'm not one to prescribe a specific diet because we all have different nutritional needs. But definitely cleaning up your eating and just eating on a schedule so that you're not snacking all day long, so you can start to get acquainted with your emotions, is super important. Consciousness, like just getting more conscious of what's going on inside of you. Now, listening to your body, finding out what works food wise. Like, does that particular item feel good in my body? Like, how does it, like, when you start cleaning up your diet, you start being sensitive to what works and what doesn't work. Whereas before, we're just a human garbage can and we have no idea, right?
Right.
And so
Right.
getting conscious, also getting conscious of our thoughts and feelings, realizing when we're feeling irritated about something, or when something hurt, something somebody said hurt our feelings. Like, just getting more aware and conscious is so, so important.
Hmm.
Courage is one of them. Having courage to do
Courage.
any of the things we're talking about. It takes courage to make these kinds of changes,
Yes, it
in our
does.
life, for
Yeah.
sure. Trying to think, there's others. I'm probably missing some. Another one is causes, looking at underlying causes,
Mhm.
and that's a deeper conversation as well. But yeah, these are the things. I think I might have given you 6 and I'm missing one. So
It's still very good. And I would imagine that stress is a major cause of this emotional.
no question. And the thing is, we create a lot of our own stress, which
Mm,
is actually good news because that means we can stop creating it.
right.
And what I mean by that is so often, as overeaters, we're also overthinkers. So we can drive ourselves nuts having a racing mind.
Yes.
And so, we work ourselves up into a tizzy over things like somebody looked at us a certain way and we've made up a whole story about how they feel about us, right? And then we're like,
Right.
screw them. And then we're all pissed off and we're starting a war, which didn't need to
Yes.
happen, right? And so these kinds of things are really important to recognize. We create a lot of our stress by overthinking. We create a lot of our stress by being rescuers. So in my book, I talk about the anatomy of the emotional eater, which are 24 personality traits that emotional eaters have that have nothing to do with food. And these are
Wow.
traits that create the stress that causes stress eating. So stress eating is a huge thing for us. One of the traits, I'd say the number one trait, Vincent, is basically people pleasing. So wanting people to like us, in which
Yes.
case we are like extending ourselves more than we can or have the energy for, like we're saying yes to projects at work that we should be delegating, or we're trying to be the savior, do all the things, be superwoman, and then people are never as pleased as we plan on them being. Like, I'm going to do all this, I'm going to get all these accolades, and then nobody even notices.
Oh,
So not
yes.
only are we stressed out and overcommitted, but then we're pissed off. We're like, screw them, they didn't even notice I pulled an all-nighter for this. And then it's like, they won't recognize me. I'm going to recognize myself with the I deserve it binge,
Yes.
And
Yes.
so I'm just saying there's a lot of ways that we're putting ourselves under undue stress. I mean, there's stress in life that you can't avoid, kids who need our help, parents who need our help, whatever, sickness,
Yes.
relocation, new job, whatever stress is going to be, but how we react to that stress, how,
Yes.
what ways we're, contributing to it by not asking for help, by not
Yes.
having self-care practices that can shore us up in times
Mm,
of stress. These are all things we can do to change. So it's not just that we're victims of the world and things happening in the world. We can have a different response, but these are things we need to practice and learn. And that's so much of what my work is about.